Welcome to Is That Homeopathy, where ancient wisdom meets modern healing. We're here to demystify homeopathy and share practical, heart centered insights for your holistic journey. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to Is That Homeopathy? If you have ever picked up a homeopathic remedy and thought, what the heck is the difference between a 6C, a 30C, a 200C, you are absolutely not alone.
Today we're answering a common question. Do potencies really matter? And if they do, how do you know which one to choose?
So, in homeopathy, a potency tells you how many times a substance has been diluted and shaken or succussed.
Each time this is done, the remedy becomes more potent in an energetic sense, even though there's less and less physical material left.
So, for example, a 6C remedy has been diluted in a 1 to 100 dilution ratio, which means 1 drop of substance to 99 drops of solvent 6 times. A 30C remedy has had that process happen 30 times, and a 200C remedy has had that process happen 200 times.
And here is the key idea: the higher the number, the more the remedy acts on the energetic plane of the person, mental, emotional, and dynamic aspects. Lower potencies tend to act more on the physical level or the physical plane, supporting the body's structure or local responses.
So, yes, potencies do matter, but not always in the way that people think. And I feel, and I think Astral may agree, that this is really where the art of homeopathy comes into play.
Right. The most important thing is choosing the right remedy that matches the totality of symptoms. A well matched remedy can be effective in different potencies. And so, this is where you kind of have to play around with it and see what's working for you.
But the potency can influence how the remedy works, which is the part of the person it's likely to affect most deeply, which kind of goes back to the point we had just mentioned with the energetic plane versus the physical plane.
Right. So, I'll go over some general guidance, but keep in mind that potency selection requires observation and sometimes readjustment. So this is where kind of paying attention, like, is this remedy, it's acting, but it's very short lasting. You might consider going up in potency. So in general, 6C to 12C might be more useful for local, more physical complaints like a bruise or some uneasy digestion. A 30C is really versatile. It addresses physical and emotional issues and is typically where people start with most acute situations. Most of the kits that you buy, as far as the first aid kits, tend to be a 30C to get started. Um, but this isn't to say that we wouldn't reach for a 200C in an acute situation if the intensity matched that particular potency. So if something is really intense or more traumatic, we might actually pull the 200C within the acute, especially if we know it's well matched and it is fitting for what that person's experiencing in that moment.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily that one potency is stronger. It's that they operate on different levels of the entire system, and you want to make sure that you match the level that you're seeking healing on with the intensity of the symptoms as well.
So a lower potency, like a 6C, usually needs to be repeated more often, um, or more frequently, sometimes every 1 to 2 hours in an acute phase.
Yeah, and a higher potency you generally would repeat less often. Again, unless you're looking at the intensity. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, with like an acute appendicitis or an acute abdominal pain, um, you might dose a 200C more frequently because the intensity of that abdominal pain is pretty significant, and a 30C you would have to repeat too frequently in order to get a handle on that pain.
Right. So typically, a higher potency would act longer and be more energetically um, connected. So we would want to pay attention to how the body's responding versus just trying to create some kind of protocol and say take this every 30 minutes. If we're giving a higher potency, that's where we want to kind of observe and pay attention to, keeping up with the time of like when that person's symptoms are peaking, and then try to dose based on when those symptoms are reoccurring and when the remedy is actually needed, instead of like just giving it every 10 minutes or something like that. We want to be more observant when giving the higher potencies.
Yeah, and I loved that you used that little graph in there because I think that that's a very important and a very good visual that you want to time it with the height of that,
hmm
right? And you want to match that wave of
Right,
a person's symptoms.
right. And that's where the art is, because we're trying to catch it before they get to that peak suffering again. But we're not trying to just give it so often that we're not observing like how long that might be. So sometimes you give it, watch it, take notes of when you've given it and when the return of symptoms is coming back, and then you might, say, okay, I'll give it before that point. So that's where it really is so individually based, and so much of homeopathy is connected to the individual. So it's really hard to say this is exactly how you would do it, and observation becomes very important here.
Yes, yes. Now, for the most part, though, I think as a home user, a 30C is a great
hmm
go-to. It's, widely available, it's easily accessible, and it's safe for and effective for a wide range of everyday situations that you would encounter as a home user.
For sure. And if the issue is very physical and localized, like a muscle strain or a bug bite, you might want to reach for the 6C or the 12C.
Yeah. So, if the issue is intense, and you're confident in your remedy match, then, a 200C could be appropriate. There's been instances where I've reached for a 200C with nosebleeds, with profuse nosebleeds,
hmm
and that, has worked out very well for that particular situation. But if you're unsure about the 200C, whether or not it could be appropriate, then as always, reach out for professional support with that too. Homeopaths love to help.
Right. And the bottom line is to get comfortable with these potencies and learn how your body is responding to them. So observing, paying attention to how you're responding, or if you're, working with your family, like considering how they might handle something. So for you, a 200C might be mostly appropriate, but if, say, you're helping someone that has lower vitality, we might want to start with a lower potency and wait and see how they respond before potentially going up. Or maybe that's all they need. Maybe that is the minimum dose for them. And so it's going to look different depending on who we're working with.
Yeah. Gosh, I feel like that observation is such a good point for so much of homeopathy, and I'm
hmm
sure we'll continue to touch on that throughout our videos.
Yeah, for sure.
So, in the end, do potencies matter?
Absolutely. But they don't necessarily matter more than matching the remedy to the ailment or the symptoms.
So we can think of potency as the depth or the level and intensity that the remedy is designed to reach. So whether that's physical, emotional, or energetic.
So choose your remedy wisely and then match the potency to the intensity and the depth of the symptoms, and always watch how the person is responding.
So if you found this episode helpful, feel free to leave us a comment or a question about your experience with potency selection. And we'd love to have a conversation with you about it.
And don't forget to like and subscribe. We've got more episodes coming soon. See you next time on
Is
Is
that
That
homeopathy?
Homeopathy? Thanks for tuning in to Is That Homeopathy, where ancient wisdom meets modern insight. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might be curious too. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to explore, drop them in the comments. We're here to keep the conversation flowing. Until next time, stay curious, stay balanced, and remember, healing begins with awareness.